Next today, the ongoing war in Eastern Europe has severely impacted the world order. It has also triggered an economic crisis in many nations, especially the rich West. There is a global grain supply crisis and prices of everyday commodities are on the rise. And to add to those issues, energy prices have skyrocketed too. Russia is among the biggest exporters of gas in the world. Europe gets a significant share of its energy supplies from Russia. But since the war began and Western sanctions started targeting the Russian economy, gas imports have fallen by over 70%. Moscow has stopped the supply from the Nord Stream 1 pipeline on multiple occasions. And that's the only operational pipeline for gas flow. It has cited servicing the turbines as the reason for temporary blocks. But Europe has called the actions equivalent to weaponizing gas. And in a bid to paralyze the Russian economy, the EU has also phased down the use of Moscow's gas. Ultimately, that has triggered a serious cost of living crisis for their economies. The UK, for example, is reporting a 40-year high inflation figure, which could still get a lot worse. The Italian economy is suffering as well. And Germany is also struggling. It's the richest economy in the EU, but its stock market is among the worst performers in the bloc. And then there is the euro slide. The euro is down more than 12% so far this year, more than over any comparable period in the year since its introduction in 1999. And this is reflecting the view that further cuts in supplies of Russian gas will hit particularly hard major Eurozone economies that depend on it, such as Germany and Italy. Well, joining me for more, we're now joined by Klisman Murati from London, the founder and CEO of Pareto Economics, a London-based world affairs research consultancy. Thanks so much for joining us. First of all, how has Russia's invasion of Ukraine changed the world power equation?
Well, you have to really understand how to define power in the first place to answer that question, Chris. And the way in which we define power is the ability of a nation state to secure their own interests. And this is what Russia is currently trying to do with this war in Ukraine. But as a result, this has really hindered many other countries' interests because Russia plays such a key role in the supply chains of many fundamental commodities, which you mentioned, fertilizer, grain, and energy. So they're using their power to force, i.e. their ability to secure their own interests, to force something upon another country which is against their free will. And this is having a massive impact across the world and changing the power balance dramatically over the years.
And a very direct and to the point question, but who's really paying the economic cost of war? It seems that the EU is losing out on a big part of this, while the US and Russia really stand to gain, I guess.
No, I think everyone loses when it comes time to war, because although Russia has intentions, they're hemorrhaging lives, they're hemorrhaging reputation, and they're hemorrhaging their economic development due to this war. Not only is it impacting the Russian economy, Russian soldiers, Russian families, but also the societal makeup of Russia and their attitudes towards the West is changing and perhaps becoming more hostile, which doesn't serve them well in the long term. And at the same time, Ukraine naturally is suffering great losses in different ways. But because Russia is so systemic in the international economy for so many different reasons, and the three which I just mentioned, this means that its impact has a ripple effect across economies in Burkina Faso, Albania, Norway, and across the world.
And we've talked about this war in great length and the time that it's gone on for. A lot of people didn't expect it to go on for as long as it has. And there's still no end in sight. And because of that, where is the global economy really headed as it stands?
Well, in short, nowhere good. I think anyone who thought the war would be swift was probably Putin. But I think we've seen how, due to many different factors, this war has gone on for a lot longer, and it's a war of attrition almost now. So the length of the war, I think, will continue on into next year, But the impacts of this war will continue over the next 10 years, if not more, only because the direct impacts of sanctions will still have an effect. And let's say even if in some magical way Putin was replaced, in order to rebuild relationships with Russia under a new leadership will take a lot of time, but the economies of many different countries would have adapted, supply chains would have changed, and Europe's energy dependency would have been much more diversified during this critical period. So war isn't good for anyone, and the length of it is yet to be determined, but I foresee it going on for at least another year.
And then, just finally, Africa is bearing the brunt of the food crisis originating out of the Russia-Ukraine war. While Russia is courting the African countries, China is also coming closer to African nations. How will it change the world order going forward with this in mind?
Well, the metrics of the world order are measured by what we call a nation-state's centers of power, which are 6, which essentially give them the ability to secure their own interests. Now, financial strength is one of these centers of power, and this for many different reasons, including inflation and a tightening monetary and fiscal environment. Countries and economies and people which make up the economies are going to suffer in the short to mid-term, which means savings are going to be eroded, which means cost of living is going to increase, pressure and stress on families is going to increase, which is going to change their buying habits, which again has a knock-on impact on the corporations and services which offer products and services to these people. Given the fact that Africa's infrastructure is not relative to other continents, isn't as well developed, having a crisis of living standards is going to make infrastructure projects, I think, take a lot longer, because financing of these is going to take a lot more time, and interest rates rising is going to make it more expensive for businesses to operate and for consumers to consume in the future as well.
Yeah, lots to think about and lots to really worry about in the future as this war really continues. Thanks so much for your time and for joining us on WION.